Our top story today. In a new report published, the Public Accounts Committee has found the government is unable to provide any compelling examples of what levelling up funding has delivered so far.
We've been asking you this morning if you can see examples of it where you live. I mean, if the Public Accounts Committee can't, it may be a surprise if you can. Ben, good morning, says levelled down or just levelled? It definitely feels like anything but up.
Yep. Ashley says, in the Northwest, we haven't received a single penny.
James says in the UK, levelling up means destroying town centres with pedestrianisation and cycle lanes. That's something we've been speaking to our reporter, Nick Ellaby, about. We're going to go live to him in just a moment.
And Sarah says, in Hexham, Northumberland, we are currently getting new pavements on the town high street and some buildings are getting a facelift. It's great, but our roads are absolutely appalling. Money would be better spent sorting that.
Well, it is just over 10% of the funds provided to reduce inequality under the levelling up agenda that have actually been spent. Let's look at this in a bit more detail. Former Number 10 Director of Communications, Jonathan Haslam, is with us. Jonathan, thank you so much. Look, the Public Accounts Committee say they cannot find a credible example of where the ideas, the funding, the money has actually done what it was supposed to, level up.
Indeed. And good morning, Rosie and JJ. It's a very surprising report in that respect, because you would expect the Department for Levelling Up to have to hand a lot of examples of where they've made a difference. And the report accuses the department of optimism bias. And to go through the background to this, Boris Johnson, his big pitch, apart from Brexit getting it done, was to have levelling up as a centrepiece of the administration. We had COVID. There have been a lot of things that have got in the way. And what the report is saying is, basically, like most things, if you rush at it and you want to show a difference very quickly, you do have problems. And those have come forward in the sense that the department's let everybody down in that sense. People are going to be confused because, as we always hear, and you just report it, what's happened to the roads? And we're looking at local authorities which are facing bankruptcy. So it doesn't look like it's a particularly well-run programme because it's been rushed. And it's public money, and there's £10 billion available. Only 1.25 has been spent.
So but is that a rush, then? That sounds like a very slow filtering out of the money.
It is slow, but the idea was you rush it. And one of the things that the report shows very clearly is that optimism bias, which said, actually, the quickest thing you can do are what are called shovel ready. You get a bunch of people out there with the shovels, they're going to do this, that and the other. But they themselves then fall into problems because they're not properly thought through, they get delayed, and the way in which they're fulfilled then extends. And the rules are changed halfway through. So for a local authority trying to deal with this, it's a big problem. And it's an expensive problem as well, Rosie, because most of these applications are going to cost about £30,000 to make. And that's money that, could be deployed elsewhere. And the other point about that is, that's one side of it. Then analysing those applications is also going to cost money at the central government side. So you can rush things and you can use public money badly when it needs to be deployed very, very carefully to get the best results.
But people are blaming the government, and to be fair to them, in Birmingham, my home city, the local council has received some money for levelling up, but it's been spent on stuff like making the city more net zero. It's been put in increasing allotments, when the locals are complaining about our council tax going up. And as you say, our road and potholes, that's not Sunak and government, that's our local councillors who are choosing to spend the money in ways that the locals don't actually want.
Yeah, JJ, but they have to get the approval of government to deploy the money in that way. So an application has to go in to say, we want to do net zero, and the government will, or the department's going to say, OK, you meet the criteria, go ahead and do it, and here's a cheque. So the question is that money being used to the best effect? And that's your point, other things that you can do with it. And that is what the Public Accounts Committee is, its job is to say, is our taxpayers' money being used
spent
properly by the government?
And effectively.
This is not the answer.